Hello to you all. So I promised another video, but these days I've been very busy and still will be very busy for work. So I thought that I would just comment on the video that I put as a background on my last and first video. While I'll just be commenting the things that I'm doing. So the first thing here is loading. So this is CLO. This is the program of Marvelous Designer set. So you will see that it's pretty similar. There's not much difference between one program and the other. You will see that the avatar that I'm loading may be different. I don't quite remember if Marvelous Designer comes with a default avatar, but this one is a new one because it's a new version, and they keep updating the program every now and then. So this is the last version that I have. And so what I'm doing now is, it's off camera, but I have the real garment on my hands, and I am taking measurements from all the different parts. So the way I do it is usually I start with a rough base. So I take the measurement of the height of the garment and the width. So I start with a sort of a cube, and then I establish the length of the part where the neck is, so how long that is, and then from the sleeve hole down. So it's very rough, and the idea behind it is that you start with as many points as you have, and then you start making them work between the others. So ideally, all the points, the distance between all the points should match the original garment. So at first they don't, of course, but you start adjusting them little by little, so that by the end, when you measure the real garment, all those points, the numbers match, at least roughly. This is not the best way to do it, but I am not a pattern maker. I'm pretty sure that I mean, I've done some courses, and that's not the way you do it. You usually, obviously, start with always with sort of a square, and then you go from there. So I taken that idea and I'm doing it that way, but it's really, really rough. The reason is because this, in my mind, this has to more evoke the feeling and the fit of the garment rather than fit perfectly. The pattern makers are really concerned about the fitting, because that's going to be worn by a person that's going to feel if something is uncomfortable. But in this case, it's just computer, and the fitting is not that important. So right now I'm just putting some. This is something that pattern makers do. They put little markers to know the distance between some points. You don't have to put the point, of course. I just use the internal lines to see the distance from one part to the other. So I go to the garment and I measure that the same spot, and I just put a line so that the point that I put on the corner, matches that length. And now I am checking the distances so that everything matches. Of course, this is like a never-ending process, because since it's so rough, there's going to be always some disparities. And also, even if the numbers match, sometimes you will see that the garment doesn't look right. It may be, the reasons are varied, but you will see me struggling a lot with the hem of the jacket, because I was seeing that my garment had this little. The back side, the center, was lower than the side, but when I was measuring it, that wasn't the case. But I could see that was the case in the real garment, so I was not understanding what I was seeing, and this is me struggling to make everything work. The important things is always to have the parts that are going to be sewn together. They should be always the same length, obviously. So I didn't care about the actual length matching, rather than the look and the feel, and that they were the same length. So right now I am probably measuring the sleeves, or maybe the neck. I didn't record myself doing the measuring. So now I have to remember what was I doing in these sudden stops that you see not doing anything. So right now I'm doing the neck part. There was, as you saw, there's this little part that's surrounding the neck. That was pretty easy. Probably, maybe the real, the best way would be to cut the entire garment and measure all the parts. that's something that in a lot of courses of pattern maker they actually do. They just take real garments and cut them and then analyze how they're done. Or they also do something that they put them on the table and they put pins on them to measure them correctly. I was doing it, by hand and using mainly my eye. So right now I'm doing a very generic sleeve. You will see me also struggling with this one because there are more than one shape of sleeves, and I am still not sure when each of the basic shapes are used. So one of them has this kind of like a down slope on the front or on the back, and then goes up, and then the more normal one just is a slope that goes up and down. That's the simple one. And I wasn't sure which one. I think I started with this more complicated or more intricate shape, and then I ended up using just a regular one because it wasn't looking good. But yeah, the exact process is used. I just take rough measurements. I make a rough piece, and then I start adjusting the length so that they match what I have. So as you can see here, I just checked the length, and I made sure that when that was going to be sewn to the sleeve hole, that would match. The sleeves usually, at least the attachment points, the sleeve hole is usually smaller than the actual sleeve. This is not the case in all the garments, but usually they do that to leave a little bit of room for the shoulder. Right now I'm doing this, I forgot the placket, I think it's called. It's like anatomy now. You have to learn all this vocabulary that I always forget. So this is the placket. I am not sure if the actual piece was curved, but I felt it would be better to have a little bit of curve there. Usually it's just like UV editing. If something flat is going to be over something that it's round, a straight line is not going to fit that well. It's like the denim pants usually have they are more curved than what you think because they're so the fabric is very stiff, so sometimes they have to give a little bit of curve to some point so that it fits better. So right now what I'm doing is the hoodie. The shape of the hoodie is actually pretty simple, and the way you do the actual piece is much more complicated than this, but since I know the general shape, I'm just roughing it. It's not going to be worn, so I'm not that concerned about the exact shapes. So what I'm doing here is I just did the entire hoodie. I cut a piece. I took the measurements of that piece of the stripe that's going to go along the head, sewn to the two panels that are going to be on the side, because that's how it's actually constructed. But I did the entire thing first, and then I cut the excess so that I made the panel in the middle to match exactly the side panels. Now I'm doing the neck, I believe. That piece, at first I was not going to do this as complicated as I ended up doing it. And I think this was the point where I was like, well, I will do all the pieces. It will be interesting to see how I struggle with, because what always happens is that you start with something pretty simple and you go very fast, and as you move forward, things start getting complicated and you slow down a lot. So the return is not that big. So right now I'm just going with the details of the side because something was not looking well, and even in the finished piece, there was something that is not right on the sides. But those are things that only a pattern maker can fix because they are very complicated. I was more concerned about the general shape, even with a hoodie. There was something weird going on, but still, now I'm not sure. So you can see that the actual jacket was made of different panels. Obviously, it would be a waste of time if you started doing each and every panel separated. So I used the panels to get a better measurements, but I obviously started with a big piece and then I cut it afterwards. But again, you can see that I wasn't sure about the measurements again. So I think even until the end, I keep tweaking all the measurements. This is what I was talking about. The length of the back was a certain point, and I could see in the jacket that it was sloping downwards. But when I was taking the measurements, that wasn't happening. So I was like, oh, what's going on? It should be sloping downwards. But if I put the real measurements, it's not going, it's actually straight. So yeah, I was just constantly measuring and seeing what was wrong. I think I didn't end up figuring out what was the problem, and I just ended up, sometimes the artistic side of things, it's more important than the measurements and the accuracy of the garment, because I was doing just something to prove, not to prove. I was doing this to make a point of it's more important to have something that looks good, at least in 3D, than in the real world. We're not doing this for anyone, so it should look better than what it actually is. I'm pretty sure that this jacket doesn't feel well at all, but well, it looks good, I think. So right now I'm just extending the sleeve hole a little bit. That happens in some cases. Of course, the most basic thing you can imagine is a t-shirt. The pattern can be really, really basic, but usually you should have more fabric underneath the arm because of the movement. You can see that in some biker jackets, even in the back, they sometimes have an extra piece of fabric because the leather's not very, I think it doesn't stretch at all. And because it's dried, I guess, they have an extra piece so that you can put your elbow in front of you. So right now I'm doing the pocket. Usually when you get patterns from pattern makers, they have all these pieces that go inside, like facing little bits of fabric that they put inside so that it's a little bit harder and stuff like that. See, in the real world they have to devise all these ways to make some effects. So if they want a part of the fabric to be more stiff, they have to put something inside that it's stiffer, so that it's more stiff, and they have to do all this trickery. Whereas in the 3D world, we can just tell the program, okay, take this line and make it harder, and that's it. So we don't have to worry about all this little stuff that they put inside. And the same goes with the sleeves, with the cuffs. Usually they have a lot of different layers to make them more stiff and to have all these different fabrics on top and underneath and inside. But since this is 3D, we can just tell, put the normal side of one material and the negative one of another. And that's it. So this was a tag that the original piece had, but I ended up not even texturing it. I think I forgot about it. But I thought it was just a nice little detail, because I think what sells in this type of, at least inside Marvelous, is those little details. Like the big stuff is fairly easy to do, but the smaller you get, it's more difficult. Like loops and things like that, they can be difficult because they end up you end up putting them in very conflicted places where you have a lot of different layers, and they can. I'm sure you've seen that the most difficult thing to do is have different layers, because they end up conflicting with each other, and sometimes things explode. Right now I'm doing these loops. I was thinking of not even doing them, but I thought that, well, little details like that maybe would show better the strength of these programs. And I know that usually if you're sculpting, you should take the Marvelous Designer file so far. But I also think that if you learn the right way of doing things, they're actually not that hard, and you can advance the model quite a lot, because especially if things drape and twist and they have to maintain the same width, they are more difficult to do in sculpting than here, because they always maintain the width. So, oh, this is a little trick that I use to put zippers. I'm not sure if Marvelous Designer has zippers. I guess they have. So I just open the thing and I stop the animation when it's open, and then I put the zipper on. I don't use tags or anything. I just open it, stop the animation, and that's it. Also, freezing and stuff like that. It's very useful when you're putting more than one panel underneath or whatever, because sometimes you just want to simulate just this little piece. So you freeze the rest and you just simulate just one of the layers, and that's it. Afterwards, you can activate the rest, and when you simulate, hopefully everything will go together because it was correctly placed when you froze the rest of the garment and simulate just that little piece. So again, with the zipper, I just open it up and I put the zipper on. You can see me doing that again, because putting zippers sometimes can be a little bit problematic, especially when they're flipped and things like that. I'm not sure how it works. Sometimes they appear on the wrong side, like that one, and I couldn't make it work. You can usually afterwards take it and just rotate it with the gizmo. So now I'm opening, and I was thinking of leaving it there, but then I thought that maybe it would be nice to show how to make underlayers, especially not just a simple layer of just cloning it underneath, which is what a lot of people do, because if you look at a real garment, that's not the way they do it. Usually they have little cuts with the different materials, and they are different sizes, and I forgot the name of those underlayer panels. They have a proper name, but I forgot. And so that's what I'm doing now. I instance the I clone them, and then afterwards what I do is I remove the not in this case, but I remove the linked editing and I make the changes. So as you can see now, they're separate entities. So now I can cut them and make the little pieces of different materials. Now I'm going to do the same for the insides, because they had this little strip of the same material as the outside that was close to the end, and then the rest was of another fabric. So right now what I'm doing is just merging the different panels, because in the inside there was just one, and I'm sewing them to the edges. And afterwards, after simulated and it's correctly placed, because putting different panels is like the worst thing you can imagine. It's very frustrating. I am not sure if Marvel Designer has that tool either, where you can specify which layers go on top of the other. And here I'm just making that cut. Since one and the other was, when you clone, they don't go together, I had to do it twice. I could have maybe duplicated the one or something, but I think they were not exactly the same or something. Well, anyways, sometimes doing it the second time is so much faster than the hassle of, I don't know, having the problems of bent normals or whatever. So I made the different panels now, and I was the last thing that I do is usually merge different panels, because sometimes the back could be just one piece, like the back yoke, and the last thing that I do is merge them, because of the symmetric pattern. You want to keep that the most what's the word? You want to keep that as much as you can. Right now I'm going with the little details of so that this is a little trick. If you want to make the inside look a little bit fuller and looser, you just go to the shrinkage and you put it bigger. And right now I was just putting the little details and making it as you can see, the list of the presets, it's much bigger than in Marvelous Designer, but they're just presets. It's not that important. So right now I was just trying to put some texture to the inside that was similar to mine, and now I'm doing the top stitching. This is something that is really, really cool, I think. I'm not sure if Marvelous Designer has it, but the 3D top stitching that now this program has is awesome. You can end up baking it afterwards, so to me it makes sense to put it now, because it doesn't cost a thing. This is going to be the high-res anyway, so why not just put it in? And you can control so much things, like the width and the color. And now the if you put two of them in the same row, they can be different colors, and things like that. They can be even different types. Now I'm putting everything on. Oh, sorry. Now I'm putting everything in high res and putting the avatar into a relaxed pose, and styling it a little bit so that it looked a little bit better. This is very dangerous when everything is on high res, but I was doing this for a good show. And after that, I am simulating now. You can see it goes really, really slow because everything, it's, I think, you can see the particle distance there, it's 5. All the pieces are 5. Usually, you should take the little pieces and put them even lower because they can, the polygons are not going to be that high. This is something that I'm pretty sure that's only in CLO. This is internal rendering. It's using V-Ray, and you can just render stuff inside. It's like when Substance Painter included their IRA, although there are different renders. They're not even similar, but it's a really quick way to take. It's a really quick way of taking the quick renders. So yeah, here you have the renders that I did. You can see that the render engine. It's well, I'm not an expert on render engines, but yeah, it does a pretty good job on making this kind of speed or quick renders that are really good to show to the manager to see that everything is going a-okay. So, well, thank you very much. I hope you like this really fast walkthrough of what I was doing. If you have any questions of any of the steps, because it was going so fast, I probably missed something. If you have any questions, just tell me. Yeah, just message me. I'm very happy answering them. And yeah, I'm expecting of being of having more free time by the end of this month or maybe next month or so, and then I will start making more elaborate videos than just replaying what I did last time and saying what I was doing. So yeah, thank you very much and hope you enjoyed, and till the next time.